Okay, it looks like we are live on the YouTube. Guys, if you are joining in with me live, do me a favor, make sure I've got audio. Give me a yes or a thumbs up in the chat so I know the audio is coming through. But on my end, it looks like the audio is being picked up. Cool. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump into it. Guys, welcome. This is episode 131 of the Think Big podcast. All right, cool. I don't have my co-host with me today. It's going to be a solo episode with the boy. There's no Sam tonight. Sam is out running and gallivanting around the world. He's actually doing a signature masterclass tonight. And so super happy for him. If you did not get into a Sam Singh masterclass, I'm going to tell you right now, you are missing out. Those masterclasses are quite frankly worth $20,000, $30,000. He does them totally for free. I don't know why he does them for free, but I do know why he does them for free. He wants to give more value than quite literally anybody else on planet Earth. And he wants to outgive the biggest gurus in our space. And he wants to do it for free so he can basically later come back and be like, I told you they sucked, and be able to prove it with data. So Sam's on a mission to do that. I support that mission all day long. But today we're going to be taking this down a more personal route. And I labeled today's episode, I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about. I labeled tonight's episode From Doubt to Discipline. And the reason I went with that title is I've been reflecting recently on my personal journey inside of entrepreneurship. Any of you that follow me, you know that I came from living at home with my mom. I was barely making the quarter of 100,000, about $25,000 a year, struggling to really pay bills, struggling to feel worthy, struggling to feel like a man. And that affected how my business was working out in the very beginning. I had a tough go in real estate and entrepreneurship, even in the performance coaching that I do now. I had a tough go at all of this stuff in the early days because it wasn't that the business was necessarily harder than it is today, or I was lacking resources or tools or any of that garbage. The reality was, in the very beginning, I had a lot of imposter syndrome going on. And how many of you can relate? Do me a favor, put like a yes in the chat or like a me too if you've ever felt imposter syndrome holding you back. In fact, earlier tonight, I did a poll on my Instagram, and I just wanted to get a sense of how many people have felt like they've had imposter syndrome. And I had about 100 people view that, and about 15 people voted on that poll, and everybody said yes. Everyone's like, yeah, imposter syndrome is something. And I had some friends who have already achieved 6 figures of profit in their business. I have friends who have achieved 7 figures of profit in their business. And they all agreed, yeah, imposter syndrome is something that's been actively holding them back in their progress. And so I want to talk you guys through my journey a little bit, not to impress you, but more so to impress upon you that in order to overcome imposter syndrome, you're going to need to rely on discipline, and not in the way that you think. So when people hear discipline, I think magically your brain goes to like this picture of a Navy SEAL, or you think of David Goggins, right? Like, I need to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go for 20-mile runs and then 30-mile bike rides and then sit in the sauna at 150 degrees and then wear a bodysuit and eat one meal a day and wake up again the next morning at 3 a.m. And that's one type of discipline, but that's not necessarily the discipline I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is you need to have discipline to identify who your goals need you to become. And what's interesting is I use David Goggins, so let's stay on this train for a second. David Goggins has talked about this very openly on stage, on podcast, in his books, that people get it twisted when they see him. They think that he's this person that's telling you need to go out and work and grind yourself down physically to a pulp. You need to go and run 100-mile races. He's like, no, that's what I had to do personally, because I was creating a version of myself. There was an identity that I had to create for myself. And based on that identity, these were the things that were required in that identity's life, right? Because his name is David Goggins, but he created a character called Goggins, right? My name is Marlon Johnson, but I created a character who is Mindset Marlon. And so it's about identifying, based on the life that you want to have and the goals you want to achieve, what would need to be true about you? What would need to be true about your behavior? What sort of resume would you need to have? What sort of actions would you have to take to make it what we say undeniable that you are who you say you are? And it's not about you being who you say you are to other people. It's about you being who you say you are to yourself. This is arguably Sam and I talk about this all the time where we say in business, the most important skills you're ever going to learn is marketing and sales, right? Marketing, letting people know what you do, letting people know you exist, and sales, being able to convert them. When someone's willing to give you their ear, give you their attention, you've got the prospect in front of you to be able to sell them and convert them on whatever service you have or whatever product you're pushing. And before you ever go out and sell to anybody else in the world, who you really need to sell to is yourself first. You've got to sell yourself on the dream. You got to sell yourself on the fact that you believe that it's possible. And then you need to sell yourself further on the fact that you believe it's possible for you. And in order to do that, the best way to sell anybody is to provide proof. Think about this for a minute. It's to provide proof. And when I was getting started in my journey, I was unable to provide myself with proof that I was worthy of having financial freedom, that I was worthy of having financial success, that I was worthy of closing deals, that I was worthy of building the relationships that I now have, that I was worthy of being able to raise private capital. I knew all these things were possible, but I didn't know it was possible for me. And I had a lot of internal doubt. I'm just being real with you guys. Like I had a lot of doubt. I remember it, by the way, for anyone that doesn't know, when I got into real estate, it took me 8 months to get my first deal. I know that Sam and I were talking about this a few weeks ago, that Sam says it took him something like the first month to get his first deal. And like Sam's a rock star. I'm not a rock star, guys. Like I'm the average Joe. I'm the average dude. And I think that's why people resonate with me, is because I don't have this like above average intelligence. I don't have these above average natural innate skill sets. Everything about what I've accomplished has just been earned. It's just been trial and error. It's been putting in the reps, and it's been showing up more consistently than 99% of people. And I think people see that they're able to do that as well. And so when I was getting started in the business, it took me 8 months to get my first deal. Now, here's what's funny. I'm going to tell you guys a story. This is really important for you to understand. During those 8 months, I wasn't sitting on my ass doing nothing. I was getting up every day. I was making phone calls every day for usually about 6 hours, sometimes a little bit longer, sometimes a little bit less. But on average, I was putting in 6 consistent hours of dialing every single day, cold calling, hand dialing from a Google Voice, because I couldn't even afford a dialer. I didn't have money from Mojo. I didn't have money for anything because I had spent all my money on just getting into the real estate mentorship programs I was a part of. I had spent over $32,000 just getting into programs and just buying data and CRMs and all that stuff that I literally had no money left to even get a basic dialing system. And so I would hand dial every day on my Google Voice number for 6 hours at a time. And what was interesting is when I would get on the phones, I would be following a script, and I wasn't having a lot of success. A lot of people were cussing me out. A lot of people were telling me to go kick rocks. People were calling me scammers. I mean, I faced a lot of rejection in that time. I'm grateful for the rejection I faced during that time, because in the beginning, the rejection did hurt. I'm not going to lie to you guys. It did start to wear away at me. And I remember oftentimes thinking, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I'm not meant to be a real estate investor. Maybe I got into the wrong thing. Maybe I should go and look for something else. I should see if maybe trading stocks is still an option again, or I should go to Amazon drop shipping, because I'm not handling the rejection well. It was making me feel bad. I was getting depressed on wanting to get on the phone again the next day. I remember one day I got cursed out so badly. I called this woman. It was a house in Long Island, and she said everything nasty to me. I mean, you're a scammer. Get a real job. You're trying to steal people's houses. What's wrong with you? You're going to hell. Like just everything. And I took it so personally that I remembered hanging up the phone and going into the kitchen where my mom was, and with tears in my eyes, asking her, "Mom, am I a bad person?" because the way this woman just yelled at me on the phone, I have to be a bad person, mom. Good people don't get yelled at like that. And so here it is. I'm trying, and nothing is working. And, you know, I eventually got to the place where I was asking other people who were further ahead of me, like, hey, am I doing things right? What are the KPIs? You know, I started to get KPIs from mentors who had businesses that were producing seven figures. And they told me if you make this amount of calls, you have this amount of conversations, it's inevitable you will get deals. And so what started happening? I started making that amount of calls. I started hitting my KPIs. What's a Will? Will Ayarza. Will was one of those people. He remembers those early days. Me and Will would be on Zoom calls and Skype calls together, making these calls to homeowners. And so making the calls, hitting the KPIs, but guys, I still wasn't getting deals. I still wasn't getting anything under contract. I wasn't having any success. And I remembered about month 5 or 6 into this game, I had reached out to one of my mentors. You guys know him. His name's Pace Morby. I reached out to Pace and I asked him, I said, Pace, can I come out to Arizona and just see? Could I see how your team is operating and how your team is closing deals? Because I have been unable to close a single deal yet. I am $30,000 plus in the hole. I am stressed out. I'm working every day. I'm not sitting on my butt, but it's not happening. And I just, maybe I'm doing something wrong. I need to come and see how the hot dog is made. I've been in total physical isolation because this was the time during the pandemic, and New York was one of those places that shut down. I was in total isolation mode, and I hadn't seen other people in a long time. And he says, "Yeah, come on out." And so I fly out. And what's interesting is when I fly out, I go to his office. He's not at the office because he was home filming one of those 24-hour lives he was doing back then. But his business partner, Cody Barton was there with him, and Cody Barton is the integrator. So Cody spent the morning with me showing me their systems, their back end. And what Cody showed me at that time was they had about 40 something employees who were all cold calling for them. They had this amazing CRM, this follow up system. They were generating, no kidding, anywhere from 20 to 50 leads per day, like new leads per day. And I'm just like, holy moly. And as Cody's showing me the systems in the back end, here's what I was feeling. I was feeling even more overwhelmed. Like, guys, I'm already $30,000 in debt. Now you're showing me this beautiful, fancy, shiny system that is costing you tens of thousands of dollars per month to run. And I'm just one dude at home with a Google Voice. Like, and like he was showing it to me to encourage me, but the reality was when I saw it, I felt even more discouraged. Like, holy crap, no wonder I'm not closing deals. I don't have all this stuff. Maybe you can relate. Maybe you felt like that before, where you look at what the other players have and you're thinking, like, I don't have these sort of resources. How can I ever keep up? Like, I'm the small mom and pop grocery store and you're Walmart. Like, how the heck am I supposed to possibly keep up with you? And so, later that morning, his main sales rep, his sales manager, Tino, came and said, like, hey, Marlon, you can come with us now. And I was, by the way, like, shout out to Cody. I love Cody. Cody was actually, to this day, he's a good friend. I appreciate the influence he's had on me, my business, my mindset. So shout out to Cody Barton. Um, Tino calls me over and is like, hey, you can come make some calls with us now. And so I was like, all right, awesome, guys. Like, I'm just gonna set up my laptop over here. I'll be out of your space. I really just want to be here to listen. As I'm making my calls, I'll call my leads, but I also just want to listen to you guys call your leads so I can maybe pick up some tips and tricks, and it'll help me be a better closer. It'll help me actually get my first deal done. And the morning begins, and so I start calling my leads. I don't really have a lot of leads at this time, guys. Like, I've got maybe like 100 contacts in my CRM. This is from the last 5 months of cold calling, and they've got literally thousands of leads, like warm leads of people who raised their hand and said, "Yes, I would be interested in selling. Yes, I'm interested in having a conversation. Give me a call back." Okay, so let's get into it. This is where it gets interesting. Here it is. I'm like kind of on the side pretending to make my calls. I'm listening to Tino and Nick and the rest of the guys make their calls. And I'm a little shocked because as they're making their calls, I'm hearing their conversations, and the sellers are telling them, no, we're not interested. Stop calling. kick rocks, leave me alone. Your price is too low. And keep in mind, these are guys who are certified closers. They've each have transacted and contracted over millions of dollars in assignments at this point in their careers. They work for one of the greatest wholesalers in Arizona at the time, Pace Morby. They've got hot leads in their CRM that have just been generated within the last, several days. They've got an army of 40 VAs calling. And at the same time, they are being rejected on the phone. They're being told no. And so this is going on all morning where I'm just like boggled. My mind is like, what is going on? Like, these guys are calling hot leads. Why are these people saying no? How are they not getting contracts? And so at one point, and by the way, as this is going on, the guys are goofing off, cracking jokes, like laughing back and forth. They had Nerf guns in the office. They were shooting Nerf guns at each other while on the phone. And at some point, it's maybe around 12:30, 1 o'clock, Tino and Nick say, all right, guys, like, let's take a break. We're going to go get lunch. And I'm like, get lunch? What do you mean get lunch? Like, guys, we can't go and get lunch. Like, nobody's closed the deal yet. We haven't made money. And they're looking at me like, why does this dude, like, why do I have a stick up my butt? Because that's how I was acting. Like, I was so uptight. And any of you that know me now, it might be hard for you to imagine me as being uptight, but I'm telling you right now, I literally was telling the guys, I'm not even their boss. I'm not their manager. I don't even work in this business with them. And I'm telling them, like, no, we can't get lunch because none of us have closed the deal. None of us have made money yet. And Tino looks at me. He goes, Marlon, you do understand that we have more work to do. We have more calls to make. And in order to have the energy to make the calls, we have to eat. Like, he had to logically talk me through the rationale behind why we got to go get a meal. So I say, okay, let's go. Let's get a meal. And we go and we get lunch. And again, while we're walking from the car to the parking lot, to the restaurant, the guys are just having a good time, laughing, cracking jokes, talking about what they're going to do this weekend. And then it dawns on me. I see what's happening here. I'm the new guy. They're hazing me. Of course, they probably called all their crappy leads all morning so that they can mess with me, so that I can think that the business doesn't work. And I mean, because they're certified closers, there's no way they can't haze me all day though. Like, they've got to actually start doing business at some point. And we get back to the office and I'm thinking, all right, now's prime time. Now they're fresh. They ate some food. They feel good. It's the afternoon hours. This is when people are getting home from work. This is actually where deals get locked up. Still, as they're making the calls, being told, no, kick rocks, too low, not interested, don't call me. In fact, at one point, I watched Tino tell a homeowner, he told a seller, hey, I don't think we're a good fit to work together. In fact, we're probably not going to buy this house from you. And he hung up on the seller. And I'm like, you can hang up on people? See, I've only been hung up on until that point in time. I had never imagined that I can do the hanging up. And so the day begins to wrap up, right? 4:30, 5 o'clock comes around. The guys are like, all right, time to head out. And they end the day. They end the workday. They close up the office. Not a single property was contracted that day. Not a single conversation was had that seemed to move the needle forward in a noticeable way. And so I'm reflecting on this. And the next day, I do end up sitting down with Pace. So Pace and I spend the whole next day together. And we start off the morning and he asked me, so, I know I wasn't around yesterday, but did you get what you needed? Was it worthwhile for you to come out here? And I said, yeah, I did get what I needed, but it wasn't what I thought. See, when I came out here, my intention, what I thought I was coming for, what I thought I needed to get was I thought I needed a few more lines on how to close. I thought I needed like some special lines or a special script or to see that you guys were doing something that I wasn't doing. Instead, what I found is your guys were getting rejected the exact same way I have been getting rejected for the last several months. The only difference, every time I've been rejected these last several months, I've been taking it personal. Your guys all day yesterday got rejected left and right, and never once did they lose the smile. Never once did they let it affect how they felt about themselves. They weren't taking the rejection personally. In fact, it's almost like they enjoyed the rejection because in a weird, sick way, it's like they knew that the rejection was leading to the deal. And so they wanted to get rejected even more so that they could eventually get to the yes. I had a total mental shift around the paradigm, the identity of what a real estate investor is. I said, I had this all wrong. I thought every time I was rejected, it was me screwing up. Another reason, right? I was taking it as evidence, as another reason why I'm not built for this business. That was proof right there that I'm not who I say I am. I'm telling these people I'm a real estate investor, but I just got rejected again on another deal. That's proof positive that I'm not a real estate investor. That's how I was internalizing it. So I'm therefore creating all this doubt. I'm creating all this resistance in my world, in the results that I'm attempting to produce. I'm literally out of alignment and every day pushing myself further and further and further out of alignment with my goals. I explained to him, I now see, because I got to be around it. I got to be in this proximity. I got to come to this campfire. I now see that you're people who I've already identified you guys as real estate investors. But now I got to understand and learn and see the new reality. I got to expand my understanding of what a real estate investor is. And I got to see that, wow, a real estate investor is a person who faces rejection regularly and pushes through it with a smile, who invites the rejection because they know all the rejection adds up to the final acceptance. I was missing that before. And so your guys have disciplined themselves to take on and create this real estate investor identity and character for themselves to be able to utilize when they come to work, for them to be able to utilize in their life. They use their discipline to create a character that once did not exist, but now exists in order to produce results. And I said, yeah, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for this experience. Because here's what's interesting, guys. When I got home, when I went back to New York, the craziest thing happened. Within 2 weeks of getting home, I got my first 2 properties under contract. Here's why I say it's crazy. Nothing had changed as far as circumstances. I was calling the exact same data, the exact same list, in the exact same market, all the same leads, still using my Google Voice. Like literally nothing had changed. I didn't go out and buy new software, buy new data, buy a new program, buy a new mentor, none of that. The only thing that had shifted was internally, my new belief system had taken root. My new identity, I created a new identity energetically, vibrationally, frequency. I was on a new frequency. And as a result, I started to get new results in my life. See, what started to occur to me after I got that property under contract, those 2 properties under contract, what started to occur to me was every time before this, when I had been getting on the phone, I had mentally been a loser. Mentally, I identified as I know this. Check it out. Like, imagine this. Like, before I get on the phone call, I'm literally already thinking to myself, yeah, they're not even going to take my offer. I don't even know why I'm wasting my time calling. I'm just going to screw this conversation up again. They're just going to tell me no again. If that's the conversation I'm having internally with myself before I get on a phone call, what do you think is going to happen? How do you think I'm going to communicate? What's my tone going to sound like? Am I going to ask more questions? Am I going to push harder when they say no? Of course not. Why would I? Instead, once I get proof, once I get feedback from the world that my inner thoughts are in alignment with the external reality, my inner thoughts that I'm a loser, and them saying, no, I don't want to do a deal with you. Once those 2 match up, that's it. Reality confirmed. Get off the phone. Move on. In fact, I'm going to energetically pull that out of them based on the vibration and the frequency that I'm on, based on my understanding of self, based on the way I've disciplined and conditioned the character, the mask that I'm wearing. When I learned to change the mask intentionally, when I learned to change the vibration intentionally, I started getting new results. I started closing deals. I started making new relationships. I started getting more opportunities coming my way. People started reaching out to me to JV. It was almost like deals started coming out of nowhere. This is something I still do to this day. Guys, you want to be able to use discipline to overcome your doubt. And the way you do that is to identify what needs to be true about you, what needs to be true about your character. And then go and shift that, gain a new understanding of the character. So now what's interesting is something that I do. This is funny, right? So let's take this down a different road again. I shared a post on Facebook earlier today. How many of you, did anyone read the Facebook post I shared today? Put like a yes or a one in the comments if you read my Facebook post. There's a handful of us hanging out live right now. By the way, if you guys are watching on the Instagram, come over to the YouTube channel. That way we could see your comments on Instagram. If you guys are dropping comments, I'm just telling you right now, I can't see unfortunately, StreamYard doesn't show Instagram comments over here on YouTube. So I'm looking at just the YouTube comments, but Will says, yeah, he saw that. Okay. So on Facebook, I made a post and I talked about the fact that although the last, 5 years, 5.5 since October of 2019, I've been doing real estate investing. Real estate investing isn't my passion. Real estate investing it's a vehicle. Real estate is a vehicle that I use to earn money. It's a vehicle that I use to position myself financially, and I'm grateful for it. It's awesome for building wealth. It's awesome for creating capital. It's awesome for developing skills. However, the thing that I am passionate about personally is personal development. Like that's what I geek out on. If you leave me in a Barnes and Noble on a Friday, which by the way, on a Friday, if I'm by myself, you can usually find me at a Barnes and Noble, or you can find me home watching anime, or nowadays playing pickleball, right? But those are the three things that I like to do. I like reading books, preferably books on personal development. I love watching anime, and recently I'm hooked on pickleball. And so I've grown passionate about the personal development now since about the age of 18. Because when I was in high school, my high school superlative, and I don't share this story often, so do with it as you will, whatever. I was voted in my class, in my grade, as my superlative was the moodiest, right? Like I was someone that I kind of had like these mood swings, right? Like I would, I'd be up and then I'd be down and I'd be up and I'd be down. And then when I would go down, I would go like deep down. Like I'd have like these downward spirals all in the course of a day. Now, the reality, guys, I'm not bipolar. What was happening was your boy is just stupid. I was hungry, right? Like as a 16-year-old, 17-year-old boy, I didn't understand that I need to start carrying snacks with me because my metabolism goes like that. I get extremely hungry. I had a late lunch. I would skip breakfast. And so, in the first half of the day, my energy levels would be depleted and it would just kind of put me into a sour mood. I would go quiet. And then when I would eat food, I'm all bubbly. I'm all energized. I'm the Marlon that relatively today. And so fast forward to all that, when it comes time for graduation and I look in the yearbook, it says I'm the moodiest. Like my classmates viewed me as the moodiest. Now, look, I don't think they were saying that as a knock on me to make fun of me. That's just how I was coming off to the world. And I didn't take any offense by it, although it did sting. I'll be honest, guys, it stung. It didn't feel good. I'm thinking to myself, man, my parents are going to open my yearbook and their kid is the moodiest. I mean, at least I'm not the smelly kid, but like, damn, I don't want to be the moodiest. I want to be like the most likely to succeed, the one that has the coolest car. But no, I'm the moodiest. And so going into college, I decided I didn't want to be known for that because clearly I'm putting something out into the world that people are identifying as moody, as a moody individual, as someone who can't control his emotions. And going into college, I decided I was going to be different because in high school, I used to have bad days, right? Something would upset me and I would allow it to continue to upset me all throughout the rest of the day. And sometimes I would carry it into the weeks. And I decided I'm done with that BS. And going into college, my middle name's Ashton. I decided I was going to use my middle name. I was going to tell people my name is Ashton, and Ashton wasn't going to have bad days anymore. And so what's funny is first day of college, I remember this. I was going to my community college and I'm walking down the hallway and I meet someone and he's asking me like, "Hey, what's your name?" And I'm like, "Marlon." And I'm like, I already screwed up. I already said my name. So, all right, I'll keep using my name, but I'm sticking to that I'm having good days. I'm not having bad days anymore. And what was interesting is, I remembered just randomly, it was a morning, it was like a winter morning. I'm going to class. And as I'm walking across campus, I just have this moment of realization that I haven't had a bad day since I graduated high school. Just haven't had a bad day. And it wasn't that bad things weren't happening to me. It wasn't that like things didn't occur. It's just it wasn't bothering anymore. Things just I didn't seem to stay upset anymore. And what was so fascinating was the shift had seemed permanent as far as I could tell. And I began to get curious about what had happened to me. This transformation occurred and what the heck's going on? And a mentor of mine, Leon Williams, he recommended that I read this book called Think and Grow Rich. And he said, if you go and read that book, there's a good chance that it'll explain what happened to you. It'll explain why you're not having bad days anymore. And this is back, guys, keep in mind, this is when I was 18 years old. So this is before all the real estate, before all the stuff. This was like my entry into personal development. I go and I read this book, Think and Grow Rich. And he's absolutely right. I realize as I'm reading the book, I'm like, holy crap, this author has literally like labeled out everything that has occurred to me, right? Like I got clear, I set a goal, I changed who I am. I started giving myself affirmations. I started listening to positive things regularly each day on repeat. And I just got to this place where I took control, where if bad things happened, I found the good. Whatever bad occurred to me, instead of looking at the bad, I instead realized and I remembered every bad is also equally its own good. And I started to look for the good and I started to extract the good first on intention, but then like it just became a habit. Now I just do it without effort. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And I became obsessed with personal development. And from there, I started devouring every book on personal development. I came across Tony Robbins. I started reading and listening to Tony Robbins, Eric Thomas, like all these guys that you know. And what's interesting is, October 2019, I tell you, I got into real estate. But what's interesting is before October of 2019, in May of 2019, I actually got into my first like online personal development. Like that was the first course outside of college I ever paid for. I paid for a Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi personal development course that would teach you how to become like a life coach, like a mindset mentor. And that was like my dream. I wanted to be more than anything else. I wanted to be one of these motivational, these inspirational speakers, this like life coach, this mindset coach. And learning from the greatest who have ever done it, Tony Robbins, I literally bought into his program. And guys, I'm not kidding. When I bought into that program, I devoured it. I mean, I spent the first weekend, I stayed home, I locked myself in my bedroom, and I watched through the entire course, like start to finish, barely slept, taking notes like crazy. And then immediately as I was done, I immediately like called my friends over and I was like, yo, I need you guys over here ASAP. I had 3 friends. I had Miles, James, and Isaiah. They all came over to my house, sat them down at my mom's kitchen. And I was like, I'm doing this thing on you guys. Just go with it. I need to try it. And I literally ran a mastermind workshop on them because I wanted to test out the skills and the tools I had learned. And it worked so well. Like they all started having these crazy transformations literally in real time right there at my house. And I even was so curious to know if like it was just a hype moment or if it lasted, where I called them up weeks later and I was like, hey guys, remember that thing we did in my mom's kitchen the other week? Just out of curiosity, it's been a few weeks now. How did it last? Like, was it just like a temporary hype? Were you just motivated for the moment, or has it genuinely created some sort of lasting transformation? And every last one of them, it's so interesting. They were like, and what's funny is like these guys are my friends since forever, and so I could tell when they're lying to me or not. And all of them honest, they go, yeah, actually, now that I think about it, Yeah, yeah, you're right. Actually, since that's when the shift occurred. That's when the change happened. That's when I started getting clear about this. That's when this result started happening in my life. Oh, wow. And I'm thinking to myself as they're telling me that, I'm like, holy moly, like it works. Like I can do this. I can help people overcome limiting beliefs. I can help people identify the things in their lives that are holding them back, and not just identify it, but actually do something about it to progress past it so that they can keep gaining forward momentum. They can keep growing. They can overcome obstacles. And I was like, I freaking love this. I used to coach a sport called parkour, and I worked with hundreds of kids. I started implementing the lessons that I learned from Tony Robbins into my parkour coaching with the kids. They didn't even know I was doing this. It wasn't like I told them I was doing it. I just started implementing the tools and working on their minds, not just their physical bodies. And again, the parents were coming back to me, and the parents are like, "What are you doing with them?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" They're like, "The kid's not the same anymore. Like, what's happening?" And my parents would start calling me when they had things that they were trying to get their kids, like, "Hey, he's giving us problems in school. This is happening. That's happening. We need you to talk to him." I'm like, "Why do you need me to talk to him?" They're like, whatever it is that you're doing, you talk to him and things change. Behavior starts changing. Results start changing. We don't know what you're doing, but we need you to do it, and we need it towards this result." And so, guys, I'm telling you all this because I'm trying to I'm trying to show you something. I was getting results with these tools I was learning around the thing that I was passionate about, which was personal development and life change. I was helping other people, not just myself. I was helping now other people change their lives and create results in very, very short periods of times. And the results were lasting. They weren't temporary, feel good in the moment results. These were results that were lasting weeks and months after the fact. So I'm getting all this evidence that it works. And yet, I tell you this, I got that course in May of 2019. I did not officially start coaching people as a mindset coach, as this personal development coach, until around the end of 2022. 3 years. I didn't start coaching people for another 3 years in an official capacity. I didn't start charging for it for 3 years. Why? Not because I wasn't capable, not because I didn't have the resources, not because I didn't have the skills, but because I was afraid. I was afraid of rejection. I was afraid of what people would think about me. I was afraid that I didn't have the credibility, that I didn't make enough money, that I wasn't old enough, I had all these stupid limiting beliefs in my head. Hell, I was afraid that one of my mentors, a real estate mentor of mine, I was afraid that he would think I was a total idiot. Like, dude, you're stupid. You should be doing real estate. Stop doing this stupid mindset stuff. I was afraid that he would say something like that to me. And so as a result of having all this worry and fear and doubt, I spent 3 years not helping people. I spent 3 years pretending. I spent 3 years going and building this real estate identity, which, guys, I don't hate on it. Like, I'm grateful for the real estate that I have and the real estate that I built, but that wasn't my passion. That wasn't my goal. Anyone that knows me, you know the difference. I mean, you could probably even feel it right now. There's a difference in my energy now that I'm talking about this story versus the real estate story. And I didn't plan this, but like, that's just the reality. It's like when I start talking about personal development, when I start talking about learning how to reprogram the subconscious mind, when I start talking about tools that allow you to dive deep and really truly get to know thyself, I wake up. That's the stuff that I can spend hours and hours talking about. I'm happy to answer questions till I am blue in the face. But if you ask me about real estate after an hour, I'm like, okay, I'm done. I don't want to talk about this anymore. I'll answer your questions. Now I'm bored. I'm going to move on. I don't seem to get bored of this personal development talk. No, not when people have questions. Not when I can see how I can serve you and help you and create transformation, help you create transformation, personal, professional, financial life change based on your subconscious programming. I love that stuff. But I'm telling you right now, 3 years of wasted time of not pursuing it because of limitation, limiting belief, having not disciplined myself to be strong enough to get rid of imposter syndrome. See, I got caught up in my own comfort zone. I got caught up in the comfort zone of being accepted by my real estate group. I got caught up in the comfort zone of learning some skill sets there. And it's like, all right, cool. I learned these new skills and now I'm just going to stay inside this space. I got caught in the comfort zone and I stopped growing towards the thing that I actually wanted. Guys, I want you to live a disciplined life. And I want you to live a disciplined life towards achieving your goal, your true goals, your true desires, not the fake ones, not the ones that you tell your parents to get them off your back, not the ones that you tell your family members so that they think you're the good niece or the good nephew or the good uncle or the good aunt or the good mom or the good dad. Not that one. I'm talking about when you are by yourself, when you've got time away from everyone, when you don't need to be anybody for anybody. What are your goals then? What are your desires then? And if you don't know what your goals and desires are then, here's what you need to do. You need to stop everything. I mean everything. I mean everything. What do I mean? Everything. Say it with me. Everything. I need to stop everything. And I need to sit down and I need to ask myself, what do I really want? Don't worry about impressing anybody with your answer. Don't worry about coming up with the most logical answer. Give me the answer that speaks to your heart. What do you actually want? Like, guys, I just told you earlier, I think this is the first time ever on like YouTube or anywhere on social media. Luckily, there's only like 15 people hanging out here. So like, whew, pressure is off. Like if I had 500 people watching right now, maybe I'd be more nervous. But I feel like I'm just hanging out with my friends and family right now. And yeah, I just told you guys, like, I've wanted to be, what's up, Jonah? Good to see you, bro. I want to, not even wanted, I still want to. I want to be that motivational, that inspirational guy. I want to be, here's what I want to be. Because like this is what I loved so much about Tony Robbins, is so much about Eric Thomas. Like Tony Robbins had like all the science behind personal development and growth. And he went and interviewed the best in the world. So I love following in that footstep and finding people who are just like leagues ahead of me and basically picking their brain on camera. And then Eric Thomas, what I loved about him is how freaking authentic and raw he is with his communication, with his story, with the consistency that like when he's speaking, you can tell like sometimes people are speaking, and I've done this and this is how I know. There are some times where people are speaking and like you can tell when they are trying to convince you so that they can convince themselves, or when they are so convicted on their message that they don't give a damn if you believe them or not. Like they're not even talking to you anymore. They're more just channeling. And that's what I got from Eric Thomas. And I was like, ooh, that's so good. He doesn't care if you believe. Like, guys, look at me right now. I don't care if you don't believe me when I tell you that my goal and my dreams and my desires are to be one of the best inspirational, motivational speakers out there, to be one of the best life coaches to have ever walked planet Earth, to be the person that can impact people, not even based on what I say, but just based on who I am, that my vibration, you literally come to me and you spend time with me and you stand in a room with me and we don't even have a conversation and you leave that room feeling better. You leave that room improved. You leave that room on a higher frequency. That is my life goal. That's what I'm working on right now. That's my desire. That's what I want. That's what I'm doing. That's what I have. That's my life today. That's my life. If you don't believe me, that's a you thing. That's not a me thing. But I've had seasons in my life, and I know it, where I've learned how to sound convincing with what I was talking about because I was trying to convince you so that you could convince me. Wrong way to do it. I said it earlier in this call. What did I say? I said, Sam and I talk about marketing and sales as the number one skills that you need to acquire at the beginning of any business. And before you go out and you try and sell another person, first you need to work on selling yourself. If you don't believe your own product, if you don't believe your own stuff, if you don't believe yourself, if you don't believe the words that come out of your mouth, I'm promising you, you are going to fail at truly selling anybody anything. You're going to fail at truly being able to serve anybody because you will be out of alignment. You will be out of alignment. And here's what happens. Your dreams and desires don't just go away because you ignore them. I told you guys, like it wasn't a waste. I ignored my goal. I ignored my dream, my desire for 3 years. For 3 years, I ignored it before I finally started coaching people, before I finally started to put myself out there as Mindset Marlon, before I finally started to talk about personal development to the public, on social media. During that 3 years, I never, ever lost that dream, but I did start to feel internal regret. See, here's what's so fascinating. Here's what's so fascinating. The reason we avoid going after the things that we want, the reason we avoid it is because we're hanging out inside the comfort zone. And inside the comfort zone, it's predictable. It may not be the life I want, but it's a life I understand. It's a life I could predict. It's results that I know are coming. Even if it's results I don't want, at least I know, right? The devil I know is better than the one I don't. And so when it comes to pushing outside of that comfort zone and stepping into the unknown, well, I don't know what's going to happen, and I'm afraid it's going to be painful. In fact, I feel pressure and pain at the edge of the comfort zone, and that's why I start to back off. And so I'm worried that when I go through the comfort zone, there's going to be pain. Let me tell you, let me get rid of that worry for you. There will absolutely be pain on the outside of your comfort zone. There will be discomfort. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be uncomfortable. You know how uncomfortable it was for me to charge my first client? You know how uncomfortable it was for me to start telling people that I'm doing personal development training, that I'm doing coaching now? You know how uncomfortable that was? You know how uncomfortable it was for me to tell people that I read self-help books? What's interesting, guys, reading self-help books now is kind of cool. It's kind of like a badge of honor. Like the Ty Lopez's of the world made it cool to read 100 books. At least when I was growing up and I was coming up, that shit wasn't cool. You tell people you're reading a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People, they're going to be like, you're a loser. What do you mean you don't know how to? You need to read a book that teaches you how to win friends, how to make friends? You are such a loser. You're a nerd. It's kind of like guys, I'm black. I'm Trinidadian Jamaican. If you couldn't, yeah, I'm black. I know, right? Whoa, look at that. And so in the black culture, right, things like therapy have been looked down upon for so long. Mental health has been ignored for so long. And so I was afraid of being rejected by my community. How did I start off this call earlier? I literally, at the beginning of this YouTube, if you guys remember, Wagwan, if you remember from the very beginning, I said my biggest worry and fear and scare was of being rejected. So then now this thing that I am passionate about, the desires I have, right? It literally is in a field. It's in a realm, right? Personal development. That's like self-help. That's mental health. That's something that my community literally ignores. So if I start going into this, I'm going to literally be pushing myself outside of my own community. Terrifying, at least to me. Maybe you're okay with rejection, right? But it's like someone who's afraid of heights. I'm not afraid of heights, but to you, standing on the edge of a building, terrifying, not to me. In this case, being rejected, terrifying. Oh my gosh, I'm going to be alone. I don't want to be alone. I don't like being alone. I know this about myself. And yet, so there's pain, right? Bringing it back to the comfort zone. On the edge of the comfort zone, there is pain. And as I push against that edge, there will be pain. But let me tell you what that pain is. Relative, the pain's a 1 out of 10 on the scale. On the relativity scale, the pain you will feel from going outside of your comfort zone, 1 out of 10, maybe a 2 out of 10. 3 out of 10 if you're doing something really ridiculous. Relative to what now? Now, I'm putting this on a scale, so I'm comparing it to what? What am I comparing it to? I'm comparing it to the pain of regret if you do not push outside of your comfort zone. I'm comparing it to you being a 90-year-old man or a woman, you being on your deathbed, you being past your productive age, you being at that point where your body physically doesn't work the same way, where you no longer have the energy, you no longer have the ability and the capacity to go after the things you desire, and you are still alive, you're still here on this earth, and you start thinking about what if. You start asking yourself that awful, awful question of what if I had gone for it? What if I had pushed myself? What if in my 20s I had taken risk? What if in my 30s I had stayed disciplined? What if in my 40s I stopped giving a damn about other people's opinion? What if I started to truly trust myself to figure it out? Hell, even if it didn't work out, I would have been okay with having tried and failed. But what I am not okay with is the fact that I never tried at all, and I don't even know what would have happened. And now what can you do about it then? You can't do a damn thing. See, at least right now, you could do something about your comfort zone. You could push outside of it. But at 90, what can you do? You literally can't do anything anymore. You are out of the most valuable resource that you had, which is your time. The thing that you have right now. And so when I look, guys, like I already started to feel some of that regret from the fact that I spent 3 years not doing any of the things that would be required to help me bring my dream to reality. 3 years. I had access to the Tony Robbins and Dean Gray. And by the way, when I finally did start coaching people, when I finally started doing my high performance coaching and my mindset coaching and started doing my workshops and I started doing my masterminds, guess what? I literally went directly back to those original videos and that original course that I paid for. And I started to implement the things that I gathered from there. So it wasn't like I bought new resources for the future. Like, no, it was literally the things it's like I went to the shelf and I blew the dust off the book. Blew the dust off the book, opened it up, and said, I'm not wasting any more time. Stop staying in your comfort zone. Right now, I'm personally, in my own life today, I'm actively looking for opportunities every single day to push outside of my comfort zone. For me, that looks like, quite frankly, going up and having conversations with strangers and approaching people that I feel any form of like intimidation towards. Right? That's one of the ways of me going outside my comfort zone. Another thing is me when I create content. You guys have been seeing more content come from me on social media. You're seeing me here on the YouTube live right now. You're seeing me on my Instagram. It's me sharing more authentically the things that are happening closer to real time. And it's also me reaching out and me making offers, me actually letting people know like, hey, I offer coaching. I offer mindset coaching. I offer personal development coaching. I offer workshops and masterminds. I offer these things. And I'm no longer hiding, thinking like, well, what if they think it's stupid? If they think it's stupid, that means I'm not the right person to serve them. If they don't think I'm the person, if they think I'm not qualified, that's okay. If they're rejecting me, that's okay. It means I'm not the right fit for them. But there's somebody out there. There are people out there who are waiting. Like, what's so cool? I got a client right now, Andrew. Shout out to Andrew. If you're watching this, what's up, Andrew? Earlier today, Andrew, I don't think you will mind. I shared inside one of my coaching groups, like a mentorship that I'm a part of. I shared the text message Andrew sent me about a week ago, where Andrew was literally just a random text message I woke up to, and it was just him saying, dude, thank you. Thank you for all that we've been doing in our coaching sessions. Thank you for the wisdom that you've been sharing. Thank you for the visualizations, the work that we've been doing regularly. And it was just a straight up gratitude text because he's getting results in his life. He's progressing. He's watching the new chapter of life unfold, the transformation happen in real time. And so I'm just like, when I see stuff like that, I am reaffirmed even more that like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And that came as a result of me getting outside of my comfort zone, me making an offer to the world, me letting people know this is what I am, this is who I am, this is what I offer, this is how I can help, this is how much I charge. Some of you, I'm not going to say the name right now because that person's watching, but I was talking to a friend over the weekend. I think it was over the weekend we were talking, and that friend is looking to get themselves, they're starting to do some coaching. And what they do, they've learned how to identify people's problems very quickly. They've learned how to they've learned a very niche form of like being able to identify based on a person's biology, based on a person's all these different things, their characteristics, what their strengths are, what their limitations are, and how to overcome their limitations and double down on their strengths. And they're really good at what they do. They're really good at it. They've invested thousands of dollars into learning it. And we were talking about like, hey, it's time for you to start charging. And that friend of mine was like, but like, can I charge for it, or is it worthwhile? I'm like, first off, you paid somebody $20-something thousand to teach it to you. And now you're worried about, can you charge to teach this to somebody else? And you've learned this at a very high level and you practice it at a very high level. Are you kidding me? Like, come on, man. Like, you pay attention here, focus. And what was interesting is they were saying, like, well, maybe I should go buy another course. And, if I get this certification, then I'll be able to finally start charging. I'm like, no, what you're actually looking for is you're looking for justification to be able to do the uncomfortable thing, which is to go out and present your offer and ask what you truly believe this is worth. You're afraid of being rejected. And it's okay. I get it. I've been there as well. But until you get over that fear, and nothing's actually going to get you over that thing besides getting over the thing. Like me and Andrew, when we were doing a run across America, shout out to Pear to Park. When we were doing a run across America last year, we used to say this all the time. There is no substitute to doing the thing. The only thing that's doing the thing is doing the thing. The only thing that is getting outside of your comfort zone is getting outside of your comfort zone. The only thing that going for the close is going for the close. It is what it is. And in order to get outside of your comfort zone, make up your mind, I'm going to get outside of my comfort zone. Use your discipline to identify what needs to be true about you. What is the identity you need to adopt, and then begin to adopt that. If you have no idea how to do that and you need help with that, reach out to me. Reach out to me. If we're a good fit to work together, we'll work together. If we're not a good fit to work together, I'll point you to somebody else. But reach out. Apply to come and coach with me. Apply for the coaching spot. I don't bring a lot of people in, but when I do bring people in, you get my attention. We dive in deep and we create transformation. So I know if you're on my YouTube, there's a link in my YouTube. Go and click that link. It'll bring you to the application page. I'm going to tell you this right now, though. I've had a lot of people recently, because I started talking about my coaching again more recently. People have been applying. Not everyone even gets through the application process. The application process it's filtered. I only want people who are serious. I only want people who are ready to take action. I can provide the support, but I cannot make you do, right? You have to bring the effort. So when people through the application process, through their questions, through their answers, demonstrate that they're not in a position where they're ready to put forth the effort, it's not for you. We're not even going to get on a phone call. We're not even going to do a discovery call. So if you think you're ready to make a change, or if you think you're ready to create transformation, if you think you're ready to overcome limiting beliefs, and if you're looking in the mirror and you're tired of thinking to yourself, I should be further ahead in life by now, go ahead and click on that application, fill it in. Now, guys, let me know. Wow, I am sweating up here. I am sweating. This was a fun conversation. I am grateful that you guys let me have it. Shout out to Rachel. Shout out to Will. Shout out to Down But Not Out, and Jonah and Ricky and Benna for all being inside here tonight, and everyone else that's been hanging out. If you're on Instagram, appreciate you guys for being here, hanging out with me tonight. We're going to wrap this up next week. We're going to be back here for another episode of the Think Big podcast. I should have my co-host Sam back with me next week. What I want to start doing, by the way, is in the near future, I don't know when we'll start this up, but I want to start bringing more guests on the podcast. Personally, I know the type of guest I want to bring on. I want to bring on people that are much more in the mental health space as well as the entrepreneurial space. And I want to try and find people who are a blend of the two. I know Sam's going to want to bring on some super tactical individuals. So I think between the types of guests that we bring on, you're going to get a good, well-rounded mix of knowledge and education. But if you know of somebody that you think we should have on the podcast, who is a vetted entrepreneur, who is a vetted person in the world of personal development, or like a high-level athlete, send me a DM on Instagram with who that person is. If you have their contact information and you want to connect us, then let's hop on a call. Let's get connected. I'm going to still, just because you send me someone doesn't mean guarantee we'll bring them up. But if you've got good people that you think, you've seen who we brought on the show before, right? Like, you guys know, we brought like Stratton Brown on the show, right? We've done interviews with Matt Higgins and Laura Morby and Pace Morby. And like, so we have a high tolerance we have a high standard for who we bring on to our shows, who we bring onto our platforms. But if you've got someone that you think is worthy of the spot on an episode of Think Big, reach out to me on Instagram and DM me their name. And again, if you feel that you want to work with me, if you need help in the space of your personal development in overcoming imposter syndrome and really creating an aligned identity to your goals, and quite frankly, setting clear goals. Holy moly. I'm going to try my best to not open up a can of worms right now and send myself into another hour-long episode. But a lot of you, the biggest struggle you have is you don't have a clear goal. There is something that I use, and I'm going to tell you right now. So I'll go into more details, maybe in a YouTube video, maybe somewhere else. But if you struggle to stay clear in your goals, if you struggle to remember your goals, here's what I'm going to suggest you do. If you have Chat GPT, this is what I do. I have a Chat GPT, and I have a specific GPT that I have trained. I've given it its own knowledge base, and I've trained it on the mentors that I most appreciate, that I most emulate. I give it the books that I believe are the ones that I want to implement the most. And then I tell it what my goals are. I take time to really get crystal clear. I will prompt it on how to ask me questions to help me clarify my goal. And then I will give it my goals, and then it will remember my goals. And then if I ever forget what my goals are, I will simply go back to that Chat GPT conversation, and I will ask it to remind me, what are my goals? Right? Use AI as well. So, all right, we're done here today. Guys, if you got value, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel if you have not done so already. And some of you, I saw a lot of you joined in late. And I think the reason you joined in late is because you don't have your notifications turned on for the YouTube channel. So I'm going to quickly, before we get out of here, because you're still here on the channel, I want to show you something. I'm going to share my screen. Let's go ahead and look, because this is important. On YouTube, when you go to YouTube, this is my page, so make sure you're here, but I can't do it on my page, so I'm going to go to Sam Singh's. Let's go over to Sam Singh. If I look for Sam, I would see this wonderful human being. Shows me that he's live right now, but I'm going to unsubscribe for a second so I can show you exactly what you all need to do when you do subscribe. So when you subscribe to the channel, if you haven't done so already, and even if you are subscribed, click the subscribe button. And then over here, that little downward arrow, this is where a lot of people leave gold on the table. Click that downward arrow, and where that all button is, click on all. What this will do is when we go live, your phone will naturally give you the notification so that you don't miss the live, and you can hang out in real time with us. You could be in the comments. You could get the shout outs like Will Iarza hanging out here, like Rachel. You'll be able to get the shout outs. So on that note, everybody enjoy the rest of your Tuesday afternoon. We'll see you back next week for episode 132 of the Think Big podcast.